All praise going on is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother, like Israel, also of faith. And I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I come before you to preach the word of God. Never do I count it as a light thing to do so. I'm going to be short with you this evening as far as this lesson goes. And it's just inspired by, heard a little bit of it and read an article about a famous football player, like many people who's, questioning certain things. And as far as the existence of God, a lot of people question the existence of God. They've been here but for a short while and can come to the conclusion that God doesn't exist, but their own existence proves the existence of God. And I just want to go to the scriptures again. I'm not going to keep you long, and just find out how we know that there indeed is a higher power. This is Psalms, the 19th division, because here we see the wonderful works of God and what they tell us. This is Psalms 19 and verse 1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork." Now, the heavens declare, they make a resounding statement to us that he exists. He says, "Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard." So wherever you're at on this earth, you can see it. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. So whatever language you speak, Swahili, whatever it is, Hebrew, whatever it is, Ebonics, whatever it is speaking unto you, and it's giving you a message. The message is that he exists. It says, "Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it." Who is he? He's talking about, that's the sun. Okay, he's talking about the circuit of the sun and the heat. It says, "And there is nothing hid from the heat thereof." It might be cold, like where I'm at. It's cold right now, but guess what? Tomorrow, that sun I'm gonna see that sun. If I'm alive, I'm gonna see the sun. Okay, so it says, "His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit unto the ends of it, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof." See, there is a God. Let's go to Romans, the 1st chapter. And the creation tells you that there is a God. You don't have to be very old to find out that there's a God. Because once you understand that there's a sun, the moon, and the stars, once you can comprehend the fact that you exist, you know that there's something greater than yourself, greater than mother and father. This is Romans 1 and verse 18. It says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness." See, there's a particular truth, brothers and sisters, that man holds in an unrighteous way. It says, "Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them." He says in verse 24, "The invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made." Hold your finger here, because what was made? Let's go to Genesis 1. Genesis 1. It says in Genesis 1 and 1, in the beginning, the bitter sheep, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. See, the creation tells us that there's a God. And see, that's the knowledge that man holds in unrighteousness. This is the truth, that the heaven and the earth, that they were created. This universe, brothers and sisters, is not eternal. It had a beginning. Anything that had a beginning must have been created or caused by something. Therefore, the universe also was created by something or someone. Okay? That's how you know. It's not this this is not something that is eternal, brothers and sisters. It has a beginning, and if it has a beginning, it has a cause. The cause is the Most High. So it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And we understand further that these things were created. The Father created these things through his Son. We understand that the text tells us. But nevertheless, in Romans 1:20, it says, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. What was made in the beginning? God created the heaven and the earth, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Man has no excuse not to obey God. Hold our finger here. Let's go back to Psalms, the 19th division. See, you don't have an excuse. See, once you understand that there's a God and you have to jump through hoops to deny the existence of God, you have to come with asinine theories. You have to say, well, it came from primordial soup, ultimately. You have to come up with all kinds of foolishness. My question, who made the soup? You have to come up with foolishness in order to substantiate this premise that God does not exist. So here in verse 1, he said, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showed his handiwork. It's showing you that he exists, but you deny it. And then he goes on to talk about the creation, but then he says something. In verse 7 of Psalms 19, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. See, once you understand that God exists, and that's clear through his creation, which includes you, by the way. Now the next step is, what does this one require of me? What does he require of me? I must be in subjection unto him. Why? Because he's God. He's the creator. See, but because we have this flesh, ultimately, let's go back to Romans. Ultimately, people do two things. They ultimately deny entirely the existence of God, or want to lean on the fact that we'll say you cannot know. No, you can know that God exists. Open your eyes and look outside. And if you're blind, open your ears and hear the birds sing. And if you are deaf, put your hand on the tree. You understand? Okay, here we have somebody asking a question that is often asked. I'm not sure why they're here asking this question in the chat, or in the live chat. It said, who created God? This is a question you hear all the time, and it is not a very good question. I'll tell you why it's not a good question. Because when you're saying God, you are talking about one who exists outside of the confines and the limits that prevent us from doing certain things. God is not created. Just because everything that you experience in this material world is finite. No, that's incorrect. You're wrong. 100% wrong. You can prove this. You don't need a Bible to prove this. You can go to, I don't know if you're European or not, but you can go and read philosophy. You can use philosophy to prove the existence of God. Look up the immovable mover. Even the Greeks who studied in Egypt, they put forth, no, look up the immovable mover. They understood that there was some entity. They didn't understand it was the God of the Hebrews. They understood that there was a being that exists outside. First of all, don't call me bruh. Matter of fact, you're done. Find something else to do. I'm not to be disrespected. I don't know what you think this is, but it's not that. So I will continue explaining for the edification of those who have common sense. You're talking about, on one hand, the same people who the world for centuries has held up in high esteem. Then when I put forth what they said, now how does that make sense? What you're saying makes sense? You're saying basically, if you're saying God does not exist, how did you get here? You're saying what you see in the material world came out of nothing. You have never seen that. If you have a book, if I have a book right here, there are some assumptions that can be made. One is that there was an author somewhere or a publisher somewhere. But this book didn't just manifest itself out of nothing. You have never experienced that. And see, that's the kind of arrogance and ignorance. That's a terrible combination, to be arrogant and ignorant. That's a horrible combination. I don't understand why people come here when we're dealing with the word that will save your soul. They come here to mock and to scorn. Go somewhere else. There's many other things that you can do. There are many other things that you can do. But you got, you don't hear hating. You got the right icon. This is, so back to Psalms 19, because once you understand that there's a God, the universe is not eternal. Therefore, it had a cause. That doesn't mean that God has a cause. See, because your mind is so small and because your experiences are limited, like many of us, all of us rather, that exist on the planet, many can only comprehend like, well, these things are created. See, one thing about it is that, who is this saying, keep worshiping white Jesus? Who is this? Who are you referring to? Who said anything about white Jesus? What is that? Support the police. Boy, I tell you. Yeah, y'all find something else to do. Where the moderators at? But anyway, you can't really fathom that something was not created, but something that was not created had to do the creating. That's why it makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is to have something out of nothing, no cause whatsoever. Even when people talk about a big bang, there was a big bang. Now if there was a big bang, where did the materials that caused this explosion come from? There had to be a point of creation. It had to be a point of coming into existence. See, you can't. That's the problem with the atheists. That's the problem with the atheists. Let's go to matter of fact, let me just read some piece to all those that listen. Let me just read something to you. Talking about white Jesus. Let me tell you something about Jesus you need to be worried about. Now let me tell you about the one who actually created the worlds. It says, in form man, it says in 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter, verse 4, and saying, now verse 3, it says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lusts. So you have some that will scoff and mock and troll, as they say today. We got a bunch of trolls on here today. He does exist outside of time. He was not created. He doesn't have a cause. So it says, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. See, so things go on so people can mock and they can laugh and they can scorn, right? Not realizing destruction is on the horizon. He said, for this they willingly are ignorant of that by the word of God, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. You read that in Genesis, the 6th chapter, where at one time this earth was submerged in water. But he says, but the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. See, that's what you need to be worried about. You need to get your act together. You need to get your house in order. You need to find out about this one who can save you. He said, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Why? Because he is eternal. As we say, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last, the same yesterday and today and forever. It says the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long suffering to us. We're not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. He said, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Seeing then that all these Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. So then those that scoff at that time will truly understand. But now let's go to Isaiah, the 46th chapter. Because how do you know who, once you understand who, that there is God, how do you know who, that he is God? How do you know? Because you got many systems talking about they're dealing with the true and living God. The Muslims say that. But now this is Isaiah, the 46th chapter and verse 8. Listen, man, get off, stop. Because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. Isaiah the 46th chapter and the 8th verse. It says, remember the things of old, for I am God and there is none else. I am God and there is none like me. So this one that created all things, he tells you what he does. He says, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand and I will do all my pleasure. He tells the end from the beginning. That's how you know who he is. Let's go to Genesis, the 49th chapter, to see what I'm talking about. Genesis, the 49th chapter. And here we see the blessings of those 12 sons that came out of the patriarch Jacob. And when he gets to Judah, he says something that we should pay attention to. This is Genesis, we should pay attention to it all, but Genesis, the 49th chapter and verse 9. Speaking of Judah, I'll pick it up in verse 10. He says, the scepter, which is like a staff of rulership, he said, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Now, Shiloh means to whom it is or to whom it belongs. Okay? Whose it is or to whom it belongs. So it says something about this one. It says, binding his foal unto the vine and his ass's coat unto the choice vine. Who is that talking about? Hold your finger here. Let's go to Matthew, the 21st chapter. See, all the way in the Bereshit, all the way in Genesis, is talking about this one that's to come. Matthew, the 21st chapter and verse 1. And when they drew nigh or near, that means nigh, unto Jerusalem, and were come to Bethphage, unto the unto the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus took disciples, saying unto him, Go into the village over against you, and straightway ye shall find an ass tied and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them unto me. If any man say aught unto you, ye shall say, the Lord hath need of them, and straightway he will send them. So that's what he's talking about. So when he said, bind his foal unto the vine and his ass's coat unto the choice vine, that's what he did when he came. But let me tell you what he's going to do when he come back, which is related to what I read in 2 Peter. He said he washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine and his teeth white with milk. What is he talking about? That's talking about the wrath of the Messiah when he returns. But he's telling you about that, what he would do when he came. He's telling you about what he's going to do when he comes back. So you can continue to scoff. All I have to do is tell you what time it is. If you disregard what time it is, all I have to do is tell you what you need to do. If you disregard what you need to do, all I have to tell you is about him. If you and warn you of him. If you disregard it, it's on you. If you want to act a fool, it's on you. It's on you. That's one thing about it. People can scoff and mock and laugh and try and all these things, but at the end of the day, all I have to do is read the word and tell you what thus said the Lord. And then if you want to be destroyed, head to destruction. That's your decision. He's not forcing you to serve him. While you figure out how you got here. Isaiah the 63rd chapter. Because vengeance is coming. Isaiah the 63rd chapter, it says in verse 1, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Then he says, wherefore, why art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth the wine fat? He goes on to say, I have trodden the wine press alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, the year of my redeemed is come. That's what you need to be worried about. That's why you laugh and scoff and mock and kick and rebel. That's what you need to be worried about. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we at the Household of Faith meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as at www.israelteach.org. If you've been edified through the ministry, you can leave a donation on our website. Again, www.israelteach.org. 100% of the proceeds go to the work of the ministry, not in our pockets. We also have Bible study every Friday on Zoom. And if you read the description, you'll see the meeting details. Yeah, something going on. That's one of those. He said the heathens are bad tonight. That's one of those things where it's one of those subjects where it triggers people. When you talk about atheism, that triggers people. If you talk about sexuality, that triggers people. If you talk about the rapture, that's something that triggers people. Soul going to heaven, like all those are certain things that trigger people because their mind, they've been so entrenched with their thought, and they've been brainwashed. They've been indoctrinated with these concepts that they don't really understand, and at the same time stand upon the scientific advancements of many people who believed in God. Isaac Newton wasn't an atheist. That's just an example. Read the Greek philosophy. Like I said, I pointed them back to the immovable mover. I'm not saying they knew exactly about who the true and living God is, but they knew that there was a higher power. So they don't even understand. And then they, like I said, you could tell when somebody asks who created God, they're ignorant. Even real atheists, I'm talking atheists who are scholars, they don't say that. I've seen a lot of philosophical debates with people who, I'm talking scholars that are atheists, scholars coming out of Oxford and all kind of places, and they will argue this, and they're not. The atheists is not. They're not arguing. They're not saying, "Well, who created God?" They're not saying that. They know that's a dumb argument, a dumb question, or ignorant question, I should say. You know, so it's just people are triggered. People are triggered. Okay, and what else do I want to say? Oh, and I also want to remind everybody that these books will soon be on the website. I'm gonna get them on there hopefully in the next couple of days. Into Egypt Again with Ships. Hair Like Wolf, Feet Like Burned Brass. The Color of Jesus. And Burning Truths Concerning the Messiah. This is out of the Italian catacombs around the 4th century. That's why I say I keep worshiping white Jesus. I don't know. That's why I asked who he was referring to. I wasn't sure what that comment came from. I didn't know what that was about. The pagan origins of Christian holidays. Killing black innocents. The program to control African American reproduction from slavery's end to the present day self-inflicted genocide. This has a new cover, by the way. And the latest book, For Then Shall Be Great Tribulation. And I have another book coming out. All praise the Most High, and I appreciate the support, brother. I have another one coming out, and my draft was supposed to come today, and it was late. So hopefully it comes very soon. It's supposed to be here today. And with that, brothers and sisters, so it's my prayer that you were edified.